Matt, so welcome to my YouTube channel. Thank you so much, Matt. And also congratulations on your completion of level 1. おめでとうございます。
Arigatou gozaimasu.
When I met you, you couldn't say any even one sentence in Japanese. Like after just a couple of months, you actually talking to me in Japanese, asking some question to other student in the group session. Pretty actually you're consistent in the group session even. So how was the experience?
It was great. It was nice to actually have some one-on-one conversations with other people speaking the language. It's a very difficult language to learn.
Definitely. Have you ever even learned different language in your life? How was it your experience before joining Japan Language Factory?
Like everybody else, I learned a language in high school, but I don't remember very much of any French. About 5 years ago, I started teaching myself German,
No.
but once again, just using Duolingo and not having anybody to talk to made it extremely difficult to retain that. So it was a lot more helpful, having somebody to speak with as opposed to just trying to go through Duolingo, which is more of like, it almost feels like a video game. You don't actually retain the information. You're just trying to get through the questions like it's some kind of quiz or something.
And why actually you chose Japanese this year, 2024?
I finally decided to travel to Japan. I always wanted to. And the 1 month I spent on Duolingo previous to that did not help me whatsoever. So I just wanted to really try and integrate myself into the language as much as possible. And so I could return to Japan and actually speak with people properly.
Amazing. And how was actually the experience? Because you studied with the Duolingo before and then you actually visited. What was actually the experience in Japan?
It was a little intimidating at first, not knowing the language and getting lost almost every night in a city I have no idea anything about. But to be honest, even getting lost, it was a great experience. Unfortunately, I was tethered to the translating device, speaking with people through text app. So that was definitely a pain. But it was an amazing place. I was just awestruck by how it's such a huge city, but the people there are just polite and the city's just so clean and organized and on time. Everything is just so efficient. It just blew my mind, especially coming from like I visited New York City and California and places like that. And it's just like Japan left a huge impression on me. Well, Tokyo so far, but I didn't have a chance to go to Kyoto.
So you really liked Japan and you came back to your place right now. And then I heard that you decided to move to Japan. Is that correct?
Trying to, yeah. It's a little bit harder than I thought it would be, but I'm not going to give up on it just yet.
Amazing. And I didn't ask you where you grew up and where are you right now? And then what was actually the huge differences for you between where you grew up and Japan?
The biggest difference would have been crime. Where I grew up, there's a lot of bad crime. And then even where I'm living now, it's not the best city. So being in Japan, it just felt like, wow, I don't have to worry about anything. Well, except for earthquakes. I did feel my first earthquake when I was there too. So that was fun.
Really?
It wasn't a bad one, but I asked everybody else when I got outside, I'm like, was that an earthquake? They're like, oh, that happens all the time.
Different danger.
Right. It's a lot different than 7 feet of snow like we get out here.
Interesting. What actually really made you to even want to come back to Japan, even want to stay longer? It's not just, for traveling.
Aside from the cultural experience and the efficiency of the city, and it's just the people I met a lot of nice people, made some friends out there, and it was just a really authentic experience, I suppose.
Amazing. It's a really huge decision for you. You decided to learn Japanese and also you consistently made the progress this year. And how was the experience in Japan Language Factory, especially after days of Duolingo?
It was a lot, my experience with your teaching factory, it was a lot better. Like I said, being able to speak with somebody and then learn the way that my personality works here in another language instead of just, word after word, this is the way it's, designated in Duolingo. It made me able to express myself, like the way my personality. So it gave me that opportunity. Aside from being able to speak one-on-one, it was just a lot more, interactive, especially with the group lessons. That gives me, the opportunity to speak with other students who are at different levels, who can also help me learn new words, new vocabulary.
Amazing. So what was actually the everyday like a mindset or even the training training? What did you do?
A lot of times I would just practice the phrases that Yui-san would teach and repeat it in my head. You know, at work, I would try and study as much as I could. And then I would combine any extra vocabulary I'd learned from Duolingo and try and form sentences I would use daily. You know, if I was bored at work, I would just run through what would a normal conversation I'd have with my friends be and try and incorporate the vocabulary and phrases I learned from the Japanese Language Factory and Duolingo to try and practice in my head conversations because naturally nobody here speaks it. And then if I try speaking to my friends, they just look at me really irritated and confused. And then they, look up Google how to swear at me in Japanese. And I'm just like, oh, thanks, guys. Really appreciate this motivation. It's been a journey, that's for sure.
Amazing. And then, here in Japan Language Factory, we say that you're going to be able to start speaking in Japanese in 2 months. And people actually like, oh, nah, 2 months, never going to happen. I'm doing textbook and Duolingo for years. I can't say. So but it's actually you decided. So how did you find us?
I actually found you on Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
When I was looking for different ways to learn Japanese, your advertisement popped up on my feed. So I checked it out and applied online.
It's not for everybody because we don't teach how to write down kanji. And then we don't actually help to pass the JLPT test. So we don't help everybody. We help only if somebody want to be able to speak to people. What do you think, Matt? Through experiencing Duolingo and also Japan Language Factory both, how you can describe and then who's going to be great to take that master course?
Like I said, with Duolingo, it was more too generic. So even with German, I really struggled with getting the accents correct. Whereas, with your courses, I was able to practice more, get the actual dialect, the actual vocabulary. And even I've tried other courses where, they've tried instructing you how to say this, but it was so generic and it still didn't feel like it was my kind of learning method. But with this course, this is definitely for people, in my opinion, this is definitely for people who plan on actually spending more time in Japan as opposed to just going for vacation because it's more of an immersion into the language. Whereas Duolingo, I'll definitely use that for hiragana, katakana, kanji. But other than that, it's just I'm really only using it for vocabulary. And with the Japanese Language Factory, like I said, it's just the one-on-one really helps bring out your personality in the language. And, the instructors can teach you however you want, either the polite, correct way or the informal way. Or if you just want to learn swear words, I'm sure you can learn. But it also all comes down to your own personal motivation too. Because even for me, I struggled with this language with Duolingo, really struggled on Duolingo. But your course made it a lot more understandable for the way that I learn, at least. And especially since I plan on going back and I still have friends out there that I talk with, try to Skype with them when I can. It's made it a lot easier to learn the language and just be able to speak and communicate.
Amazing. Thank you so much. So what do you think? What is going to be your ultimate goal if you just progressing in Japanese?
If I'm able to keep progressing, I hope to get a job out there other than English teaching because I'm in the trade. So there's a lot of things I can do out there. I just have to really focus on getting the language down. I hope to, live out there someplace. Just have to be able to get my foot in the door right now.
Amazing. All right. So one more request. So 2024, all over the world, people actually watching Japanese entertainment for sure. I don't see anybody who never watched Japanese entertainment like, Dragon Ball and everybody actually know that it's, I wish I could understand, Japanese without subtitle or I want to visit Japan. So what do you think? What is going to be the advice to them progressing 2025?
I would say try your courses, but
thank you.
But I remember when I was really young, when I was first trying to learn Japanese, I was 15 years old. I found a book in the library at school and I just couldn't, it was just vocabulary. That's all it was. And that's exactly how I felt. I'm like, there's no way I can learn this. It's going to be impossible. So I just kind of gave up. And then it wasn't until recently I just reignited, that spark to try and learn it and decided to travel out. Just really helped. So I would recommend, aside from taking your courses, just pick up the vocabulary along the way as well. And on your own, practice hiragana, katakana. Kanji's impossible, so good luck to everybody.
True.
But it just takes, you got to really dedicate at least, I put in at least half an hour a day or more to try and practice or learn vocabulary, aside from obviously the course lessons and stuff like that.
All right. Thank you so much, Matt. ありがとうございます。
Arigato gozaimasu. Thank you for all the sessions and for all your help. I really feel like I've progressed with this language because, like I said, I could not have done this with just Duolingo alone. So your courses have definitely helped me to progress and be able to speak with people I know out there on a personal level as opposed to sounding like a robot.
Thank you, Matt.